coming up on the Lead Ministry Podcast.
The church will never be able to hire to meet all of the needs. So in order to keep the good volunteers that God has provided, that's a key factor for our success. So we must train in order to retain.
Now your host, Josh Denhart.
Hey, welcome back everybody to another episode of the Lead Ministry Podcast. My name is Josh Denhart. Very, very grateful that you're here. Hey, listen, we are here for you. We seek to create ridiculously practical resources to make ministry easier. We want to make your life easier. We want to make your spouse not resent or lament about your career path in the ministry. We want to make this a blessing and a beauty to you. And so one of the things that we're doing is every single month we're having an intense content focus. We're really zeroing in and really diving deep into one topic. And of course, last month, Bill, we were talking about how to retain volunteers.
Yeah, it was an awesome month. It was amazing. It was amazing to kind of push all of that out and to have people respond. And
it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
I hope it's really helping people in ministry.
Yeah, I think it is. I do think it is. It was great to see people come out for the retention webinar. That's awesome. Love seeing that. Love seeing the engagement there. Also, listen, little do people know that just by being on the newsletter, that they're getting tons of free stuff. They're getting like cherry-picked videos from like the Lead Ministry vault of paid content. Like we put some little free videos in there. Those are great things. But not to mention kind of a fun ebook that we put out last month, right? You kind of helped with that. I remember I was in a highly caffeinated state and I was like, the love languages, let's do this. And I sent it to you and we worked on it together, right? But that was a good thing. A lot of people downloaded that. And so a lot of people are experiencing. And one thing that you did in that ebook that we just put out last month, which by the way, people can still get. One thing that was cool about that particular ebook, Bill, was that we put in a survey that you can actually like copy, paste, send it, give it out to your people so that and I love it also. It's like, if they answer this and this, that means that they're this, right? So it's not, they wouldn't necessarily know, oh, well, those first two questions are whether I'm an affirmation person. It's a little bit more coded than that, right?
Right. Yeah, no, I like that. And that's really practical because it's kind of like your first step of identifying, how your volunteers need to be loved and cared for, which is so huge, so huge. It
is huge. And then the other thing that I'm very thankful for and very grateful for is that people have access to the Lead Ministry Fast Tracks, right? Rather than a huge course that's extraordinarily comprehensive, this is the Cliff Notes version. And so people are able to jump into that. But guess what? We did talk about retain last month, but here we are jumping into a brand new month, the month of October. And we're talking about we're going to have a exhaustive look at not retaining. We just did that. Now we're going to talk about training and how you need to train volunteers. I think it's pretty critical in order to make sure that your people that you're enlisting feel as if they have an idea of knowing what they're supposed to do.
Right. This is just basically practically the next step.
It is. And that's what we've sought to do, right, Bill, is that we thought through the ministry year and it's, okay, great. You have some strategies to not let the good ones fall through the Swiss cheese of your ministry. You don't want a Swiss cheese ministry. You don't want a bunch of holes where people are going to fall off the back end because you're not caring for them. Okay, great. So we did that last month. We're hoping that you have some strategies to plug the holes. And now that you've got people staying with you, now it's time to pour deeply into them through a training regimen. And so that's where we're at on this particular episode, not only on this particular episode, but the entire month that we're dedicating it toward this monthly focus of training volunteers. I'm super grateful for this. Of course, if you've been on the podcast for any length of time, it's about defining it. We're going to do a little definition about what is train. What is the opposite of train? We're also going to talk about developing it, going deeper. Then, of course, we're going to talk about how we can actually do this and make some headway in our training initiatives. Well, guess what? This is the first thing that we do for this big inaugural month of Train. Let's jump in. Okay, what is a working definition for train? Well, as a verb now, this is not a noun, okay? If you're a noun would be a traveling tool, right? You have a car. Right. No, an automobile. No, an airplane. No, it's a train. No, that's a noun. We're talking about the verb train, how you can actually put action toward, and here it is. The definition of train: to develop or form the habits, the thoughts, or the behaviors of a person through instruction. So you're helping to develop or form. So there's action there. You're a participant. It's like clay. You're molding some clay and you're forming the habits. That's a good thing. You can train habits. You're helping form the thoughts. You can train people how to think rightly about ministry. You're this block of clay. You're forming the behaviors of a person through some instruction. Now, here's the interesting thing, Bill. We'll get into this a little bit later. Part of this is just your personhood. This doesn't have to be like ultra content heavy. I mean, there are things that we can do by just being a human being and rubbing off on another person. Am I right?
Oh yeah, that's so true, because you carry your culture, right?
Ooh.
You have kind of an aura around you of the culture of your ministry. And so when you're up in front of people, or you're spending time with people and you're leading them through something, you're rubbing that, aura off onto them, and they're kind of understanding how things go here.
Yes, Bill, it's kind of like this. Now, back in the day, there was a Bible teacher that spoke about the dust of the rabbi. And this was a thing back in Jewish culture, to where there were lots of rabbis. Rabbis were just teachers, and they had particular angles, or they had particular philosophies, no different than this senior pastor has an angle that this senior pastor doesn't. And then all of a sudden you're like, wow, I really like the angle at which they are thinking about God and they're dealing with life. And so then a disciple of that rabbi would walk with them. And they said that I want to walk close enough that I get the dust of the rabbi on me. Because of course this was a walking culture, right? And so you would kick up dust wherever you went. And if you were close enough to the rabbi, some of their dust would get on you. So it's the idea of being so close to somebody that their aura, the dust that's coming off of them, right, is getting on you.
Right. So in children's ministry, it's like you want to be close enough to your leader that you're getting the graham cracker crumbs that they're handing out to the kids.
Yeah, goldfish.
Yes.
Yeah. And then, but the other thing too, Bill, that's very important, because it's not, I think people need to understand it. I've watched people get so hung up on this in the wrong way. And they're like, but what's my content? Well, part of your content is you.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
As they say, right? Show me the 5 people that you hang out with the most, and I'll show you your future. And so all of a sudden, what I want to do is I want to find people, 5 people, maybe it's 3, maybe it's 12, whatever, but I want to find a group of people who are going to be around me a lot, and I want to rub off on them. Now, Bill, this is a funny story. Years ago, I was teaching high school chemistry, and I was having a moment of inspiration, right? And I said to this crowd of kids, I put my arms up, and I said, hey, listen, if you were to wake up tomorrow morning and the entire world were following you, where would you be leading them? And this young lady whispered, to the mall.
That's awesome.
It was so classic. And, and she was a girly girl, and she said it loud enough. She was saying it to her friend. She wasn't intending for me to hear it, but I died laughing, and I never forgot that. But really, the question remains, if your whole church were following you, where would you be leading them? Am I worthy of think about that. Am I worthy of other people emulating me?
Yeah, that's a great question.
And,
it reminds me of Paul. He says, follow me as I follow Christ.
literally just took the words out of my mouth. That's exactly what I was going to say. And what a bold thing to say, right?
Yeah.
It's a bold thing to say. The reason it's so bold is it's because like, wow, do you realize that I have some human idiosyncrasies? Am I that bold to say, hey, listen, if I know that it's hard to follow an invisible thing. Jesus, he's not here. But the next best thing is follow me. Whoa, those are some big words now.
Yeah, that is
But
big.
as we get into this month though, Bill, I really want to emphasize it's not about necessarily curriculum or content. It's not necessarily about doing a book study, though I have a book that people could read. It's 52 little ministry insights. A lot of people use it as the core foundation of their training for their volunteers. I'm all into that. But part of it is your own personhood. And people are going to get behind that. So that is a piece to the training, is just having people around you. Well, here we are. The definition of train: to develop or form the habits, the thoughts, the behaviors of a person through instruction. And by the way, as we're stating, you yourself are giving off an aura of instruction, whether or not you realize it or not. So be cautious. Now, here are some synonyms or other words that kind of help us understand this idea of train: care for, develop, educate, equip, coach, instruct, qualify, and guide. Now, Bill, I'm going to cherry pick one of these and say that I really like this idea of a synonym of train as qualifying someone. You are now, because I spent time with you, because we did a number of lunches and I trained you about how to stand in front of a group of kids and lead a Bible story in a way that's effective. You are now qualified to do that role. Or we spent time together. You watched me for 4 Sundays at the computer check-in thing. You watched me troubleshoot a couple of silly things. You know how to reload the little spindle thing that spits out stickers. And you are now, because of training, you're now qualified. That's the one that stuck out to me. What about you?
No, I'm going to double down on that, because I like that idea of qualify. We actually do this really intentionally at our church, because we do a team teaching model, which means there's not only one primary speaker. We have multiple speakers at our church. And our senior leader has been super intentional that when we get a new speaker, if there's ever anyone new onboarding, they always team teach to start. And the idea there is that you're kind of like, I guess, showing to the congregation, this is somebody that we trust. This is somebody that so you're qualifying them in that sense. They've spent time together. We know their doctrine. It's not some unknown person. This is us, like, passing the mantle of this.
You're vouching.
Yes.
You're vouching for them. And so then all of a sudden they get the privilege. By the way, I would imagine that at your church, prior to them standing up on stage and being next to you in a co-teaching or a team teaching role on stage, and they're going to take a portion of it, and then you're going to take a portion of it. Long before that ever happened, there was a lot of caring for and developing and educating and instructing and equipping that led to them now doing the next qualifying thing, which isn't, hey, here's the mic, go do it yourself. Right. This is now the next step or phase in your training prior to getting the mic all by yourself, big boy.
That's exactly it. That's exactly how we do it.
Well, that's huge. Well, the opposites then, because I got to tell you, it's important for me to know the synonyms, but it's also important for me to know the antonyms or the opposites of train. Here's a couple. Abandon. Now, the opposite of train, that's an interesting one, because like if all of a sudden this guy's like in the mix and he's kind of learning this, and all of a sudden you're like, nah, we're going to hit the eject button and we abandon you. You're done with training at that point. Okay. Right. Mislead. Ooh, that one burns. As opposed to like rightly lead.
Yeah.
Okay. Neglect. Now, this is something that I've seen literally hundreds of leaders do. They are busier than a one-legged man in a kicking contest. They are the textbook definition of the hot mess express. They are running around with their hair on fire, and they're like, oh, you're a human being that has a pulse who showed any level of interest. We're thrusting you on the stage with a mic, and you've neglected this training regimen, and now everybody's going to get in trouble. Ignore. Well, this is not about ignoring. This is about spending intentional time to get a potential set of behaviors or thoughts or patterns into them, and that's ignoring is the opposite of training. Any of these that stick out to you, Mr. Bill?
Well, yeah, I wanted to add my own. It's going to be drain. It's going to be drain. Instead of train, you drain. And that's the idea of like when you actually set somebody in a position or to do something and you don't give them training, that's, equivalent of draining them because you're kind of just using them to fill a hole instead of actually equipping them. This
is interesting because, okay, I've never thought about it like this before, but train and drain, yes, they rhyme, which is kind of fun. However, train is putting in, and drain is leaking out. And so I want to be the guy that puts in. I don't want them to drain and have nothing in them. Okay, so why must we train volunteers? Well, we kind of defined it already, and now we're coming to our big second bucket. Why must we train those who have agreed to serve with us? Because don't forget, they have, at some level, they have kind of thrown their hand in the air. In a whole line of 100 people, they took the big, bold step and stepped out there and said, I'm willing to participate with my one and only life, and I'm busier than a one-legged man in a kicking contest. I'm going to say yes to something, and I'm going to take a risk and serve at church. So why do we need to train them? Well, there's a whole bunch of reasons. Number one, we're commanded. I think this is a really, really important one because if you're listening to this podcast, the chances are very high that you are a staff member. That you are, or if you're not a staff member, if you're like, oh, I wish I was a staff member. My church isn't big enough. That's great, but you're in charge. Well, here's a passage out of the book of Ephesians, chapter 4, 11 through 13, and it says this, and he gave some as apostles, some as prophets, some as evangelists, some as pastors, and some as teachers. Now, stick with me for a second. That is the fivefold leadership gifts. In terms of the bestowment, God bestowed gifts at salvation, and these are spiritual gifts, and he gave these unique 5 gifts for a particular reason. And here's what it says. He gave the apostles, the prophets, the evangelists, teachers, pastors for the equipping of the saints to do the work of the ministry, for the building of the body of Christ until we all attain to the unity of the faith and of the knowledge of the Son of God to maturity, to the measure of the stature which belongs to the fullness of Christ. So watch this. These 5 gifts, they are uniquely given, and the expectation is that you're going to, if you have one of those gifts, your job now is to build up the body so that they're mature, so that they have a full knowledge of the Son of God, that they can attain to the faith in the full stature of the full measure of Christ. Our job is to build the body. We're commanded to train people, period.
Yeah, there's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. It's, I always key on that word in this passage, equip. We're called to equip people. And that is training in essence.
It is training. That's exactly right. And I know we've said it 100 times on this before, but we are commanded the role of a pastor is to build up the body to do the work of the ministry. The role of a pastor is not to do the work of the ministry. Now, bottom line, when we are training people, we get better. And here's an important piece to this. I mean, Bill, if you want to, you and I personally have talked about this. If you want to remember something, if you hear it, you're going to remember it at the 10% level. If you discuss it, you're going to remember it at a far higher level, 30%. research is very strong on this. If you actually do it, you're going to have some mental retention at the 50% level. But if you actually teach somebody else to do it, you're now at the 90% level. Big difference.
That's huge. That is crazy to think about. Like, wow, you want to grow in your faith? Start teaching.
Yes.
If that's the calling that God has for you, put it in place and actually do it. Get it done. Because I mean, man, that's like we were talking about. I think last month we were talking about spiritual life hacks. That's a spiritual life hack right there.
Yes, it is, to teach. And we talked about this before we clicked record. And the interesting thing with this is it's about the idea of synthesis. It's okay. You may know something and you've heard it and you can talk about it ish. But if the knowledge that you have in your brain, if you don't, it's a whole different level of knowledge that you can take what you know in your brain and then synthesize it and then cogently push it out your mouth to somebody else. You have to know it at a way different level if you're going to teach it.
Oh yeah, that is so true. If it's foggy to you when you go to teach something, it's going to be completely undiscernible to the people who you're teaching it to. So you have to learn it at a level that allows you to deliver it. And so that grows you. That grows your maturity when you do that.
It does. It grows your knowledge of the content. Earlier, before we clicked record, I was laughing that I have degrees in science, and I remember distinctly sitting and listening to a physics teacher friend of mine, and he was showing me the graph about how refrigeration and compression, like a compressor, right? A compressor on your AC unit, how that works. And I have a vivid idea in my mind of the trapezoid, this really weird graph that talks about the pressure and the cooling. And there's no hope that I could explain it because I really don't know it, right?
Right.
And so the idea
about it.
I know about
but you don't know it.
Exactly. Yeah. And so if in fact, if you can't get behind the idea that we're commanded to train people, maybe you could get behind the idea that if you teach it, you're going to know it really well.
Yes.
So that's a benefit to us. Another one, training leads to retaining. The church is never, we talked about this on our last month, the church will never be able to hire to meet all of the needs. So in order to keep the good volunteers that God has provided, that's a key factor for our success. So we must train in order to retain. Bill, let's just push pause on this for half a second here. Have you ever been placed in a situation where you were given a task and yet you really don't know what you're doing? How does that feel?
Oh man, you just feel like awkward. You feel unequipped. You feel
sweaty,
scared. Yes,
perspiring.
Yes,
and you feel stupid.
Mm-hmm.
You feel like ill-equipped, that other people are you okay, let's say that you have been handed a new type of transaction tool, right? You're like, hey, can you just run this little, it's called Clover. You're like, well, I understand Square. Right. I don't know about Clover. Well, you're fine. Yeah. Go ahead. And then there's a long line of people and you legitimately don't know what you're doing. I want to run from that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so imagine how volunteers feel then in your ministry.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so we have to put that on. And I've watched way too many leaders, and there again, it's crazy Connie, right? Or crazy Craig, who's running around with his hair on fire, and he is so busy. She is so busy that they really don't care. They're just like, okay, well, they come running up and there's like this cloud of dust surrounding them and they're just a crazy person. And they're like, oh, you're fine. You're intelligent. You got it. It's okay. And then they just run off and the person is like, dude, I feel so ill-equipped.
Right. Oh, it's like talk about wrong footing your volunteers.
Yes. And so watch this. If you want to keep somebody, don't treat them that way.
Right.
If you want them to feel sweaty, clammy, insecure, possibly maybe starting to even get angry at you that you put them in this position, go ahead and not train them and send them to the wolves. And then they're going to say to you, I think God is calling me to do something different. Guess what? Quick thing. We said this on the webinar, on the Retain webinar. Here's the deal. Leaders don't quit ministries, or volunteers don't quit ministries, they quit leaders. Have you ever tried to multitask and ultimately you got nowhere fast? Well, the same thing happens in ministry when you are trying to develop yourself in a haphazard and scattered way. You see, the Lead Ministry membership flips the script. Each month, one focus, one skill, one area of growth. We saturate you with podcasts, newsletters, webinars, and courses all around one core competency. It's clarity, it's momentum, and it's progress you can feel. Check out the different levels of membership at leadministry.com. Volunteers don't quit ministries. Harsh truth. They don't quit ministries. They quit you.
Yeah.
Because you put them in a position for them to feel clammy, for them to feel insecure, for them to feel upset. Nobody wants to feel that way. And so they're leaving because they're like, why would I put myself in that situation? I was in that situation in junior high when I didn't study and I did it to myself. Why am I allowing you to do this to me?
Right. Absolutely.
I'm out of here. So in order to retain, you got to effectively train. Okay, well, how do we start this training process as we kind of close this podcast down? Well, here's the deal. Pick your worst area. Now, but listen, we're going to have a ton of resources about training. This is not the only thing. We're going to stick with this for the full month. But one of the ways that you can start to train is to think about your worst area. What area is on life support? What area is really bad? And pick that area. And then what I want you to do is look around you and find out, who are my willing people? You're like, oh, I don't really have any willing people. Okay, I got a question for you. Who didn't cancel this week? Sam and Ted? Great, you got two. Right?
I love that.
Faithful in little will be faithful in much. And so all of a sudden you're looking for people who haven't flaked out. You're like, really? That's really well, listen, man, you go to war with the army that you got, not the army that you wished you had. And so, yes, I would love to have a fully vetted, strong, have hit the ministry, bench and bench press and leg press, the ministry squat rack and the whole thing. Great. No, doesn't always happen. So what do I have to do? I have to be diligent to find willing people. And then I'm going to be the one to get their legs strong and their bench press up and their squat rack higher through ministry training. So I'm looking for what area is kind of hurting and show me a couple of faithful people.
Yeah, because you have to start somewhere.
You got to start somewhere. Next, it's going to be when and where can you meet is what I say to them. And by the way, a great opportunity. So you've got a ministry that's kind of deficient. It's kind of on life support. You found a couple of generally faithful people and you say, hey, when is a good time for us to connect? And by the way, one great way to connect is to go, hey, after church today, I just grabbed a bunch of sandwiches. Can you stick around? Don't find them when they're already there. And then
yes, absolutely.
Don't make for another opportunity. Like, do you have to do Thursday morning at 6:30? Really? Do you have to do Thursday afternoon at 3:30 that they have to leave work to meet your schedule? Please.
Right. No.
Do it after church and provide them food. Okay. So you've found an area that's hurting. We can all find that. You found some people who are nominally, at least they're showing up. You found some level of success with them. You find a time and a place that's worthy of, easy for them to meet. And then the final thing is you ask them questions. And basically, in my opinion, Bill, it's as simple as asking them, hey, junior high kind of like Sunday school ministry that you and I kind of like I took you on a tour and we looked at that. What do you see there? They're like, oh, it looks like it's, can I be honest? Yes, please be honest. It looks super boring. Okay, I'll agree with you on that. What do you think, like in your past experience, so it's asking people questions and just having a dialogue about how could we fix something? People are, I think, when you begin to engage them and you begin to ask them questions and their mind starts to percolate, and they're like, oh, well, why couldn't you do this? And so then they're having this level of buy-in and you're like, hey, listen, what you said is fantastic. I want to know, would you be willing to come with me on next Sunday? And let's just go into that room and take the thoughts that you had. Let's just tease them out. We're not going to do them, but let's just could we carry this on again? Would you be willing to come a little closer to this? Yeah, I'd love that. Because you know what, Sam, it seems like you're kind of like, you got some good ideas. You look like you could be an expert in this. I don't know.
Yeah.
Bill, what are your thoughts on this?
I absolutely love that, because what you're doing is you're drawing them in. And instead of them seeing you as like this ministry guru who has every single answer to every question, you're saying, hey, let's do this as a partnership.
Yes.
Why don't you come alongside of us and we can solve problems together and friction points together in ministry. And how satisfying is that for a volunteer to get that level of say and for them to be bought in on that level?
Yes. And then let's say that they watch let's say that there's a game in the junior high ministry and they're like, yeah, that game, it just didn't really look that good. Hey, you know what? You're right. I've got 3 websites that I typically go to. Could I send you those websites and you pick out 3 games that would follow these criterion? Well, what criterion? Well, what do you think would be a good game?
Right.
Right? And so I already know what a game is going to be, but this exercise of asking them questions, they're going to go, well, okay, what did we see today that was a fail? Well, we saw 98% of the kids watching and 2% of the kids playing the game. So we need to look for games that include like 75% of the kids at one time. Yeah. Yep. Okay. That's criterion 1. I'm glad you brought that up. Well, that was already my criterion anyway. I just led them to come to that conclusion, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
What's another fail? Well, that person shared the instructions for the game in like 12 minutes and people were getting punchy and people were starting to freak out. Oh, so what you're saying is get a game that participates with 75% of the kids and get a game that can be explained in, what do you think? I don't know, 3 to 5 minutes. Fantastic. And so just those 2 criterion. Can you come back next week and show me a list again? I'll take you to lunch. And so then all of a sudden, this is now this organic style of training. It's not me having an agenda. It's me engaging them and asking them questions that leads to their participation.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. That's a brilliant way to do it. Brilliant to get people on board that way.
Yeah. And so it's kind of a Socratic method of training. Mm-hmm. It's instead of dictatorial and I'm dictating what the training is, I'm asking questions and I'm leading them to actually the very conclusions that I myself would have wanted to have taught straight out anyway.
Yes.
It's kind of an end-around approach. Well, listen, gang, we're grateful for you guys. We're thankful that you all are here. We're going to close off this podcast with the following. Hey, listen, a brand new webinar is coming up this month, and you don't want to miss it. If you're a member, you're in. You're already in. And if you're not a member, you can try it out. It's $47, but if you join as a membership, it drops significantly, and there's all these extra bonuses. So listen, we got a webinar coming up. You can look for podcast extras as a member. We've got so many things to hone in this month on the concept of training volunteers. Well, gang, we're grateful that you're here for this podcast. We got lots more to come in the month of October for training. All right, gang, we'll catch you on the next one.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of Lead Ministry Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. Make sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Thanks for listening.